We're here with Mike Starcher at the Pedigree Ranch today. Mike has something very interesting hanging around his house. So please join us and we'll solve that mystery.
Welcome to At the Forefront, where we explore the groundbreaking innovations and developments shaping the future of aging. We're hitting the road to showcase how older adults are embracing change, staying active, and thriving in their golden years. Here's your host, CEO of Forefront Living, Tim Mallett.
Mike, welcome to your own living room.
Thank you.
Before we begin talking about what's hanging behind us, can you tell our audience a little bit about you?
Kind of grew up down here. We're in Chatfield, Texas, and my dad has a place across the road from here, and this is my wife's family's ranch that we're sitting on right now, and we started dating in 1984. We got married out of A&M and been in Dallas since 90.
Since 1990.
Yep.
And when did your love of all things World War II began?
So my wife's grandfather was a waist gunner in a B-17. And he was still living, he lived on the ranch here when I was in high school. And I got to talk to him a lot, and it was so interesting, like his stories. And he wouldn't, like the rest of the family they missed out on some of the stories because they just didn't ask the questions. And that also comes with family. Like everybody knows, like families, like the whole dynamic. But I would ask him the questions, and he would just start talking. And then there was another man living on the ranch who was a radio operator in a B-17, and he's also family. And we built a house, or I helped on a house for a neighbor, and he also would tell a bunch of stories, and so I got really, really interested. If you'd like me to get into this or why. So when I was in high school, all I wanted was a pickup truck, and I would buy an Auto Trader religiously every week. And in one of those was a truck trader. There were Auto Traders, truck traders. So I'd buy the truck trader, and in the back there was a miscellaneous section. And one day there was a 1/10 scale B-17. It should have been in the Aero Trader, but it got in the miscellaneous section of the truck trader. And I was reading about it. And this was 1983. And it was $35,000. My truck cost $3,200. And I was like, but I was looking at it, and it was a Boeing 1/10 scale, and it was in Australia. And it seared in my mind. And so then later on, when I met Orville Austin, that's my wife's grandfather, and we were talking about it, and I got all his medals, and we've got his jacket on the wall over here, and I've got his flight logs, and but one day I got a wild hair, and I looked up on eBay. No, I didn't get on eBay. I just looked up 1/10 B-17 for sale, hoping I could maybe find that plane again, because I didn't have a chance of buying it. And that led me to a website that the guys in Dallas had a remote control radio control club, and I started doing research, and I found a B-17 flying.
We learned an interesting fact about the 1/10 scale.
We did, and
this morning.
This morning, yeah, and so it brings the whole thing full circle on why that 1/10 scale even existed in 1983, or why I could see it in 1983, 84. So can I tell them who?
You can tell, absolutely.
So my buddy Lucky tells me that Boeing actually created that 1/10 scale to put in the wind tunnels so that they could do aerodynamic testing on it. And he said it was mostly important when they put this bottom turret on there, and that changed up all the aerodynamics of the plane. And so it's going to get you again.
It's going to get me. Decapitated by a B-17.
It was instrumental in creating the best plane they could create, and they built 1/10 scales.
Yeah. So it's
I got to learn
gliding
something
gently on the air created by your fan.
Yes.
today. But getting back to your story, so you went online, you discovered this club.
So I see a picture of this plane flying. I call the guy at the club and I said, hey, can I get in touch with whoever owns that plane? And as you can imagine, people aren't real forthcoming with information, but I guess I talked fast enough that he agreed to give me the guy's name. And so I called him and I said, if you're ever interested in selling that plane, I'm in. I'm your guy. And he says, well, why don't you come over and look at it before you commit? We didn't talk price. We didn't talk anything. I just said, I'm your guy. And so he says, come over and look at it. So and he was over in East Dallas and lived over by Lake Highlands High School. So I said, well, when can I come over? He says, well, come over tonight or this afternoon. I'm like, okay. And I get there and he's got it all laid out in his garage sitting on the floor. And I was like, oh, I got to have this. And I said, okay, well, look, I'm in, I'm still in. If you get ready to sell it, you just, tell me what the price is and when when I can get it. And he says, and he tells me the price. I make a living buying real estate and you just can't pay full price for things. This is the only asset I have never negotiated. I was like, I didn't have the heart. And then on top of that, he was still flying them. And I said, hey, I'm going to pay you for it. And his whole motivation, so this plane weighs 41 pounds. His whole motivation was to build it 3 pounds lighter because it would fly. He thought it would fly a little bit better. I asked him the price and he says, well, I'll get back to you on that. So he calls me back. He tells me the price. And he says, and basically my price is what it's going to cost me to go buy everything to build it again. And I was like, well, do you think that's fair? He says, I'm like, because you got labor. He goes, well, my labor, this is just what I love doing. So I was like, I'm in. So you keep flying the plane until you build your other one. He's like, no, it's okay. I'll get to work on my other one. I don't really have enough room to keep, And he calls me on Friday, and I said, well, I'll come get it whenever you want. So he says, come get it on Tuesday. And I said, okay. And he says, yeah, I would have let you pick it up on Saturday, but my wife died, and we were having her funeral or something on Monday. So
There's a story within a story in a story.
And then he was so thankful. He says, this is such a blessing for me because now I have the money to go buy the parts and take up my time building another one. And shame on me, I did not follow up to see if he built
Well, that was my next question.
Yeah, and I've gone back through my phone to see if I can find his name, and I can't.
The obvious question is, have you flown this?
No. So the funny thing is, maybe the first or second question out of his mouth, the first question, he didn't even ask my name. He says, are you planning on flying this? And I said, no. He says, that's good, because if you were, I'm not selling it to you. I'm sorry, I got to back up. One question in between that. Have you ever flown a remote control plane, a radio control plane? I said, no. He goes, and are you planning on flying this one? No. Okay. Because I will not sell it to you because they are not easy to fly. And you can actually look at the wingtips on this one, and
it's got some scuff marks.
Yeah, it has the wounds.
So they call that provenance, right? So it has flown.
Oh yeah.
How accurate is the model?
It's 1/10 scale. So it is 11 foot. I think it's an 11-foot wingspan because I think the actual planes were 110 or 112. 103. Okay, there you go. So this is not quite 11 feet.
And in a moment, you will see who is answering questions from the audience. We have a special guest today. What year would you say this plane would represent?
In the war, so it would have been a later model. And this particular, and we have an expert on it that can fill in those gaps, but the man that built it, he did the milk wagon because this plane flew 128 missions without returning for mechanical. And the reason I think they call it the milk wagon was because it probably flew fairly easy missions, but that's still a lot of time to get this plane or one of those planes off the ground without mechanical. And, most planes didn't have that kind of a record. And so, I don't know, maybe he was just hoping that would bring him good luck when he was flying it, that it would always, come back and he wouldn't have to rebuild it from a crash or something.
Mike, you've had a great passion for the airplane. You have a great passion for things. World War II, I'm looking at a flag.
With not enough stars on it.
Yeah, it's a couple short.
It's too short. That's my great-grandfather's.
Why is it important to preserve these stories?
Because they'll never happen again. And I don't like, and this is, when the soldiers came back from World War II, like nobody talked about it. And then everybody saw how they were treated from Vietnam. Luckily, like in later wars, that changed. I think it changed a lot. I think there's a different level of respect. But they fought a war that nobody can comprehend today. And I got to go sit down with another pilot, a B-25 pilot, B-24 pilot. And he was one of the longest running volunteers at Scottish Rite Hospital. And his name was Bill Smith. And he told great stories. And he was so dedicated. He flew in World War II. And then when he got out, it was just such a part of him that he went and flew freight planes in Korea. Like he just had, it was just, and so I don't know, it was just, there's something about those guys, that whole generation that is just remarkable. And you just can't help but want to preserve it.
How does it feel to be surrounded by so much of it and so much of that history?
Oh, it's great. I just hope my house never burns down. So, but yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah. And yes, and just, getting to spend time with Lucky was is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And
tell our audience about that visit with John, and he is talking about John Luckadoo, who has been a frequent guest on At the Forefront.
The first time it was amazing. It was just great. It's like winding the hands back, because I did get to spend time with Orville. And you just want that back. Just like if, everybody says, if I could just have 10 more minutes with somebody, right? Well, there's a handful of those people, but he is certainly one of them because there's a million questions you could ask of him. And then when Lucky, when I met you at the party and we were talking, because Kate had been down to the ranch and seen the plane, and then I'm talking to you, and I don't get excited about very much at all anymore. And when you said something about the plane, I said, yeah, I've got that 1/10 scale. He goes, well, you said I've got a pilot. I'm like, BS you do. There's no way. Nobody has a pilot at this point. Yes, I do. And so I was like, can we get him down there tomorrow or the next day or the day after?
And we did. And we had a great
and we did
time together.
In short order, we got him down here, and it was just, I've pretty much been grinning ever since. And then when you said we could do it again, it was I was very excited. So,
well, Forefront Living's mission is to make each moment matter. So the fact that you're talking about taking that moment, seizing it, and wanting more of it is very much who we are all about. I guess my final question for you is, what else is on your wish list from the Second World War? Is there something that you want or something you don't have?
If you could just bring them all back for a little bit, that'd be pretty neat.
To spend more time.
To
spend more time with our veterans. I think.
Yes.
I think that's the perfect add to the wish list.
It is. Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you for letting us into your home. Thank you for sharing the stories. Thank you for preserving this beautiful plane.
Thank you. This is an awesome opportunity for everybody, and I hope everybody gets to appreciate it. And we were talking about going back to New Orleans to the museum, and I'm excited that he's part of that as well. And so,
yeah, and if anyone actually visits the World War II Museum in New Orleans, you'll get to spend a little bit of time with Lucky Luckadoo. Lucky, welcome back to At the Forefront. This is your third visit with us, which makes you the most frequent guest. I don't know if there's a trophy or some way to mark it, but we're so happy to have you back. Today we're talking about something a little bit different. We've talked a lot about your World War II experiences and a lot about what's hanging or flying above us. Couldn't happen but notice the smile on your face as you saw what's behind us. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're feeling looking at this airplane?
Well, Tim, every time I see one, it really strikes a harmonic in my heart that these airplanes, which we call the Queen or the Flying Fortress, really played a very significant part in winning World War II in Europe. And to have been a part of that has been, although it was accidental on my part, and ultimately becoming a part of history, which we are, and what we did, and why we did it, and how we did it, and the equipment that we used to do it. The B-17 occupies a very special place in history because it turned out to be the backbone of the 8th Air Force, which was the means by which America was aiding Britain in stopping Hitler from invading Britain and making a stair-step assault, perhaps, on our East Coast. And so it brings back such vivid memories to me of 85 years ago.
Do you remember the first time you saw one of these?
Oh, well, I do, because when I graduated from flying school, just gotten my wings, along with 40 of us in the Bloody 100th Bomb Group, we were sent from our graduation directly to Kearney, Nebraska, where the 100th Bomb Group was then stationed and about ready to go overseas. And we'd never been in a B-17. 40 members of my flying school class were sent directly to this group that was about to be sent overseas. Now, they never did that to any other group in the 8th Air Force. And why in the world they did it, nobody ever knows. No historian has ever picked up on it. And sadly enough, the docuseries that Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg made about the 8th Air Force during the World War II, and particularly the Bloody 100th Bomb Group, didn't even mention it.
So let's talk about that for a moment. But before we do, a lot of things have happened since we last met, including you've had a birthday. Would you like to share with our viewers which birthday that was?
103.
103. And how does 103 feel?
I'm 103 and a half.
And a half.
I'm counting the months.
Yeah. 103 years young and lots of things going on. You mentioned a docuseries, and docuseries is Masters of the Air.
Correct.
Can you tell us your involvement with Masters of the Air?
Well, of course, as a member of the original 100th Bomb Group, the Bloody 100th, which the docuseries focused on, and they selected 5 members of the group to replicate their personalities. And that's what the series was about. It was not about so much what we did or accomplished as a group, during our combat, 2 years in combat, but it was about the personalities of these characters, as it turned out, who were members of the outfit. And it's, of course, very interesting that they selected the 5 they did. I was not one of them, and that's perfectly all right, because let me tell you one thing. Since that series was released, 9 episodes, plus the 10th that Tom made himself about the Bloody 100th, since that was released, I've had an avalanche of requests to talk about the series, to talk about the group, and to make presentations. And as I call it, get on the rubber chicken circuit and go around the country and remind people, particularly successive generations, of what we did, why we did it, how we did it, and the equipment that we used to do it.
Really, at an age when most people are looking back on their life and looking back at careers, you have achieved a level of celebrity and a new path forward. How does that feel?
They called us, or Tom Brokaw dubbed us as the greatest generation, and I think that's a great exaggeration. We only did what we thought was right, and we answered our call patriotically to respond when our country needed it, to preserve the values and the democracy that we cherish and we enjoy today. But it was really such a shock and such a surprise to me to suddenly see so much attention focused on me personally. And I thought, well, hey, I was just an accidental part of history. I didn't do anything so great. It was just what we were called upon to do, and we responded. And I know today that many people feel like that the current generations would not respond as my generation did. And we don't know that. We don't have any idea, nor did we ourselves have any idea of what we could do and would do when we were called upon to do it.
Lucky, you talked about the rubber chicken circuit. Can you tell our viewers or give them a taste of your recent schedule and what your June's been like? Because you've been a number of places.
Well, I have, as long as I was physically able to travel, which is becoming increasingly difficult and requiring so much energy, and I'm having to cut back and limit myself. But last month, the month of May, I made 4 trips. I was in Minneapolis for a round table. I got back from that, went immediately to Montgomery, Alabama, and was one of 8 in the Gathering of the Eagles, as they call it, which is a book that they publish every year, for a week. Got back from that and went immediately to New Orleans to the National World War II Museum for a week for my 100th Bomb Group reunion, and then ended up going out to South Lake to a Memorial Day picnic at the Perot Ranch. And that just about did me in. I have now had to resort to saying, hey, if you want me, I'll do it on Zoom.
Zoom is a wonderful thing.
Because technology will permit me to see the audience and they to see me, and I won't have to be there. I won't have to get on an airplane and travel and get back, because physically it's just gotten to be more than I can withstand.
You mentioned to me having to listen to your body, and my question to you is, where does such great stamina and resilience come from? I mean, to talk about the schedule that you just talked about, that would take somebody half your age down. Where is the stamina and the energy coming from, Lucky?
Scotch.
Scotch. Now's your chance to make a Scotch producer's dream ad. Is there a particular brand or flavor of Scotch you like the most?
By all means, Johnny Walker Black.
Johnny Walker Black. So with that, thank you for joining us for this episode of At the Forefront. We will be back with Major Luckadoo in another episode. So thank you.